moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's get into this.
Let's
today.
do it. Let's go. Wow, time machine. Let's jump 65 million years ago.
Yes.
Woo!
Yes.
I'm exhausted. Is that why I'm tired?
It's probably is. It's the jet lag and it's the time difference. They didn't bother with this daylight.
No, they just woke up. They did their thing. They went to bed.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think as humans, we've ruined everything. I think both these movies prove it.
Okay, so you may notice that it's only the two of us. Christina is not here this week. Sidestepped this one. Sidled.
No, I think she literally jumped overboard. She didn't sidestep anything. She's like, I see this train coming. I am off. Good call, by the way.
Before we get into our Dino Spectacular, do we have any news?
We do have some news. Do you want to start with the bad news, the really bad news, or the horrible news? So Lance Reddick, who we may know from John Wick, suddenly has passed away from natural causes. The guy was 60 years old. Natural causes? What? I'm like 4 years behind this guy.
And we've just started, you and I, at least, getting into these movies. And we're about to see him in John Wick 4, which...
Yeah, he was out promoting it. Yeah. So obviously, if anybody doesn't know who this gentleman is, he is the concierge at the Continental into John Wick movies. But he's also been in The Wire, Fringe, Lost, Oz. He was a voice actor as well. He did some DuckTales and Rick and Morty stuff. Very
recognizable face. So once you see him, you know you've seen this guy before.
Yeah. So this is devastating. This is horrible. Very sad. All right. Now we got to go good news. James Gunn has been confirmed as director for Superman Legacy.
Well, it was kind of leading into this, yes. I think. This is your flagship movie in this new DCEU he's heading, so it would just make sense.
Right. Well, I think he's writing it as well. It's just that he's got a really, I mean, you keep seeing the Guardians Volume 3 trailers. These movies have a very, very unique take to them compared to the rest of the Marvel universe. So, you know, he's taken over this DCU, and I'm curious what kind of slant he's going to bring to Superman. I mean, at this point, we've seen Superman in every iteration, so maybe he'll bring something new to the table. It may be. Listen, I once again sitting in the theater and watching that Flash trailer. Even my buddy who was with me, who is entrenched in all those DC TV shows, had not seen that trailer, and even he was like, "Wow."
But to be fair, that trailer really shows a Gunn-esque sensibility. So it's not going to be a huge leap. Yeah, even if this movie is fantastic, you know, it's leading into that direction already.
I see where you're going with it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I'm open. You know, DC has not had their act together in quite some time. And we've gone on record numerous times. I don't see it like DC versus Marvel. Just put out a good product. That's all I care about. Speaking of characters, we're going to go back to some bad news. Willow, the Disney Plus series, has been canceled. Although I have now seen that the creators in Kasdan, Lawrence Kasdan's son, Jonathan, who I think spearheaded this, he has said it's not dead. We've already got season 2 written, and I don't know who they're going to shop it around. I don't know who else would take on something like that, but
well, it's a Disney-owned property.
Isn't it? Right, exactly. So
maybe. Well, Hulu is part of that family.
That is true.
Yeah, maybe that's what they mean. I didn't watch the actual series. Did it end on a cliffhanger? Is it
of course
beginning
it
of
did.
season
Yeah,
2?
It really sets it up as a much larger universe type of thing, which the entire series is doing. So either that's it, one and done, and then if that's the case, then why even bother getting invested in it? If you haven't watched it before, then why would you start?
Why would you? Yeah,
right. That's unfortunate. Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna go good news. John Bernthal has officially been approved. He's confirmed as the Punisher, coming back in Daredevil Born Again, which is going to be a Disney Plus series. Maybe they got rid of Willow to bring this on, because unlike these past Marvel shows that are only 8-9 episodes, this is going to be an 18 episode story arc.
Wow.
So this is monstrous. They brought back Charlie Cox. He showed up in Spider-Man. He's showing up in She-Hulk. Vincent D'Onofrio is coming back as the Kingpin. So they're picking and choosing some of these characters. What I have read is that the actors who played Foggy and Karen will not be back, but it's not confirmed if they're being recast or if those characters are just not showing up.
Or if this is a fresh take. They're picking and choosing the new actors they're using with this start from scratch approach, like a different alternate universe.
Yeah, they could negate everything that we've seen before, or just ignore it. This storyline, Born Again, is a very famous story from the late 80s with Frank Miller, and I think it was David Mazzucchelli who did the artwork. What's interesting is that I think and again, this is going back quite some time, I think the thrust of the entire series was that Karen Page, who in the comics was a junkie, basically sells Daredevil's identity to the Kingpin in order to get drugs. And then he just, subsequently makes his life a living hell. So if you're not going to recast her or bring her in, then I don't even know what the catalyst of the story is going to be. And I don't think that Punisher is in that storyline, but that doesn't bother me. He maybe just replaced Bullseye. I don't remember now.
Well, maybe that makes more sense if they're going to go with that storyline, because the Karen in the Netflix Daredevil was not that at all.
No, right. So. Yeah, and I don't think you can kind of suddenly make her. I guess we'll find out. I mean, 18 episodes is pretty substantial.
Yeah, it is.
That's a big commitment, man.
That's probably why they're dropping all these other Marvel shows, so they can put their money in this.
It was one of my news items a couple of weeks ago, and I opted not to, bring it up. But yeah, Bob Iger is really kind of cleaning house over there, and they're pulling back on the Marvel stuff. They're pulling back on the Star Wars. I think that Patty Jenkins and Kevin Feige's Star Wars projects have both been officially axed. They are dead in the water. So yeah, a lot going on. And then finally, this is going to kind of lead into our Dino talk, which is Sam Neill, our Alan Grant from the Jurassic Park series, has revealed he has stage 3 angioimmunoblastic T-cell lymphoma, which is a blood cancer.
But I also saw that it's in remission, right? That didn't he beat it?
Yeah, well, let's check this out. So apparently this first round of chemo didn't work. So we started this very expensive, very aggressive chemotherapy drug. And he signed a contract with the drug company agreeing that if he survived after 4 months on the drug, the rest of the treatments would be free. What is that? Is this like 7-Eleven? Buy 4, get 4 free? It's bizarre. But yes, from what I understand, it is in remission. He has to take this drug every month for the rest of his life. And then unfortunately, it comes with unpleasant side effects. And I didn't dive too deep into what those were. But his quote is, "I'm not afraid to die, but it would annoy me." And so to that, I say kudos to you, sir. And we hope you get better.
Yes.
Because he's 75. What is going on? It's like I turn around and all these people are old.
Speaking of cancer, we shared, and this is not news to anybody that's a fan of this band, that original guitarist of Duran Duran, Andy Taylor, was diagnosed with stage 4. But there is silver lining on this cloud, that he is getting back together with the band, and they're recording an album with him.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I hope that that's not just conjecture, and I hope that happens, because frankly, I think the last decent album that they did was when the five of them got back together in like 2003 or 2004. Then he left, right after that.
Yeah, so, that's fantastic news. I have not heard that. Amazing. I saw them once, but I think it was the wedding album, which I don't think he played on.
No, he did not.
Yeah, exactly. So still a damn good album, though.
Yeah, it is. That had some huge monster hits on it.
Yeah, I love that album. Radio City Music Hall. James opened up for them.
Sit down.
Laid.
I can't see. Sit down. Sit down.
Sit down.
Sit down in front of me.
Get out of my way. So are we all right? We need to break out some police soundtrack, a little walking in your footsteps.
Yes, we do.
Mr. Brontosaurus.
Yes. We didn't see a Brontosaurus, though, at all in these two movies.
Brontosaurus doesn't even exist.
That's old news. That's old news.
That is old news.
Listen, they discover a new species every single day. So
I know. I'm afraid I may put on my paleontology hat at some point during these two movie discussions, more so in the first one, because they play fast and loose with what some of these creatures are. But
I give them that because they don't want to give you a been there, done that feeling, so they
don't go back to Earth 65 million years ago.
Well, let's start. We're talking about 65, which is probably one of the worst titles you could give to a movie like this. If somebody is walking into a theater, not really deciding what they're going to see, and they're looking at the titles to spark a memory of a trailer they've seen or something, they just see 65. In my head, if I didn't know what it was, I'd think it was a sports movie. Like that's the number on that's the number on some guy's jersey, right?
Yes,
65. Yeah. And I'm going to take a page. I talked about this last week from my local ticket guy. When I went to go see Scream, and I was like 3 or 4 people back in the line, and I'm hearing him. And every person that comes up, he's asking them excitedly, do you want to see Adam Driver fight dinosaurs? Do you want to see Adam Driver? So he's selling this in a better way than the marketing department probably could for Columbia. And unfortunately, I couldn't say yes last week because I was there to see Scream. But I walked up proudly to the same guy. I just told him, we would like to see Adam Driver fight dinosaurs. And the smile on his face,
he's like, sucker.
He was like, 3 for Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs. And
nice.
So there was a total of 6 people altogether in the theater.
And you being 3.
But yes, 65. When the title finally comes up, this is like a James Bond movie where you don't get the title
20 minutes in. So 20 minutes in, yeah.
They quantify it, though. They do quantify it.
But that just shows you that it wasn't a good title. If you now have to tell me 65 million
years ago, in case you're confused.
Earth.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, my buddy was still confused because we walked out of this theater and he was like, he was all caught up in time travel. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, they're aliens. And
although, are they? Because for all intents and purposes, they're human. And it says in the beginning, because there's more than just 65 million years ago, there's more text that you read through prior to the advent of mankind. I'm like, well, this looks like mankind to me.
Yeah, no, they are humans. Yeah, they don't even go to like the Star Trek where they put like a little nose ridge on them or something to differentiate. They speak English. I'm like, you couldn't take 5 minutes to give me the opening dialogue in some kind of subtitles
and then move it to English
and then just transfer it over to bring home the point that these are not humans.
Yeah.
But then you also have to ask, because the concept of this, which is Adam Driver is some kind of a space trucker, and he's got this mission. It's a 2-year mission that he is driving a bunch of these people in cryo freeze.
It's basically Alien Covenant is the setup here.
He's bringing them from point A to point B, and he's like, well, they're paying me double what my normal rate is. I'm like, is your normal rate like just for 1 year? Because if it's 2 years and you're getting paid double, no, you're just getting paid the same for 2 years. And are you getting paid up front, or once the mission is complete, do you get your paycheck?
I don't think he is getting paid up front, because his whole reason for doing this is to give his daughter the medical attention that she needs, yet she passes while he's in space.
So it's like poverty in space. It's like, yeah. And then he's not a good pilot either because he immediately crashes this thing.
But you think because the wife tells him at some point, well, at least she'll be here when you get back.
No, she's not. She died. So, but he's still getting transmissions from her. It's a really weird setup because, like, where is he taking them that they are flying that close to Earth?
It's just kind of a throwaway. It's an exploratory mission.
So why are they in cryofreeze then?
Are they populating some planet? Right, are they going to? Because he's not in cryofreeze.
No, he's the pilot. So everyone else is in cryofreeze. And if it's a 2-year mission, that means it's probably 1 year out and then 1 year back. He's got to come back to his planet, which they told us is planet Samaras. So they actually labeled the planet. They go out of our way to tell you that these guys are aliens, that this is some weird thing that he's doing. So, yeah, the setup is weird. They immediately run into, they get hit by asteroids and the ship goes down.
Right.
This was all before the opening credits.
Yes. Before you're revealed the title. It's no Planet of the Apes reveal. As we said, they give it to you right straight up front. You're on Earth, 65 million years ago.
They tell you that, right. Okay. So the premise is that he crash lands 65 million years ago and he has to fight dinosaurs. Ship is torn apart. There's only one survivor. He finds this little girl. I will say this movie is amazing and not in a good way. There's a lot of amazing things that happen in this movie. And you're just like, what?
But you see, I was of the mind of that ticket taker. I just was there to see Adam Driver fight dinosaurs.
Right.
I did get that.
Okay.
So I wasn't looking at it with a real critical eye. I just kind of.
No, I wanted to be entertained. And I was willing to be entertained. Right there. That's your elevator pitch. Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs. No, he's basically on the run from dinosaurs. There were so many amazing coincidences that happened. But again, I guess this happens in every movie, But
you gotta have a hook, right? So of course, the big reveal, if you can call it such, is that he lands on Earth like 2 days before,
like mere minutes before the asteroid.
The dinosaur killing asteroid is about to hit the surface.
This is amazing thing number one, because if they had crash landed on the other side of the planet, you never would have seen it coming.
Right.
They would have not known. So,
but they did set it up so it's part of why he crashed. So
this is the one thing, right? Again, if you want to get into the paleontology, and some of these dinosaurs are very creative with what they are. And maybe they just decided, you've seen velociraptors, you've seen T-Rexes running around in Jurassic Park for the last 30 years. So we'll get you something slightly different. This is one thing they did get right, which I don't think when you see these movies, it wouldn't just be one giant asteroid that like crashes and just takes everybody out. It would be, exactly what's happening here. You're getting multitudes of these little tiny fragments coming down long before the big one ever hits. So in that regard, it is visually impressive. Yes, they're under a timetable. The ship has been split into 3 parts. All the cryo tubes are broken except for one who just happens to be a little girl. So now he's got that father thing going on, because you do find out that his daughter back on the planet died. So now he has this vested reason to save her, because initially he sends out a message, an SOS, and says, don't bother.
Yeah, it's only me. Everybody else is gone. And then you're thinking, well, why would he do that? And then it's revealed a little bit later on that the daughter is no longer alive.
Right. Yeah, and I guess he doesn't care about the mom. Screw you. You're on your own. You know what? I'm not coming home. What do you mean you're not coming home? I need to be consoled.
And then he tries to kill himself afterwards. It's like, and it's just seconds later, he sees that there is one more pod out there. So, but it is a pretty impressive sequence when it's an uncharted asteroid field that he goes through, and that damages his ship. And it's, of course, part of that, the monster asteroid that's coming to kill the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So he crashes, but yet.
Yeah, all the parts that you need for survival not only land right side up so you can continue using them, but still have power. All of his little devices have power, everything. This is where I'm getting into the amazing thing.
You don't know, because they don't ever explain these devices. So maybe they're solar powered, and maybe that gun, although it does appear to finally empty itself.
Like a pulse rifle, yeah.
Like, is that just pulling stuff from the air to...
I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows?
You're right. The tech stuff is never explained, but it's convenient that the air is breathable, which he discovers. So that's fine. But when he finds a little girl, he puts a mask on her at some point. But maybe that's just because she's coming out of the cryo.
Probably, yeah. But I was loving it when he crashed because I'm like, is he on Dagobah? Because you see that thing,
exactly.
the thing that ate R2 is like in the swamp.
Yeah, he's in Dagobah swamps. That was the remains of Alderaan.
I'm like, this is actually a Ben Solo movie, and he's about to meet Yoda here.
I would have been very happy with that if that was the reveal. It's like it's really a Kylo Ren origin story. Yeah.
But he never fights that thing. That's the dinosaur I wanted to see. That thing that was in the water.
Yeah, and again, I went through this. I tried my best to try and guess what some of these dinosaurs may have been because, like I said, even what they're referring to or what you assume is a T-Rex. His forearms are way too long to be an actual T-Rex. So I don't know. I'm guessing that was like a crocodilian creature, like a Deinosuchus or something. But
yeah, it was like a cross between like a leopard and a T-Rex.
But most of the dinosaurs he does encounter are of the small variety. You don't get the giant. Okay, I take it back. You do get the giant T-Rex. It doesn't come right at you. Like you said, you don't see the apatosaurs or brontosauruses or any of the big sauropods. You get little teases of pteranodons, but they don't really play into it at all. But yeah, most of the dinosaurs are these little tiny, probably closer to what a real velociraptor would look like. But this is what blows me away in this day and age where even the Museum of Natural History in New York City depicts these dinosaurs with either feathers or down. Yet we're still showing these creatures like what they look like in Jurassic Park from 1993.
Like you said, the raptors pretty much look like they did in Jurassic Park, but smaller.
Which is what a velociraptor, right? The ones of Jurassic Park are complete. They've known that for years, but they've already established that these things are human size, so they just stayed with it. Yeah,
and there's a couple of other I don't know what those things were that chased them into the caves. If that's
I don't know either because they look more like Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
I did watch a video and someone extrapolate that they may be Nothosauruses, but again, look like crate dragons to be the Oviraptor, which is clearly an Oviraptor, the one that was inside the cave stalking him. I think they're herbivores. Oh no, they do eat eggs. Maybe not.
Well, they're excited. They've never seen something like this. So they're trying to work out. Can I eat this thing? Or
I don't know. This guy's got a gun. He's shooting at us.
Yeah.
Taking out some of my pals. Maybe I should stay away.
But when he first lands, he encounters some hot springs. And I'm like, this is Big Thunder Mountain at Disney World. They're filming right on this set.
Here's another amazing coincidence that he's got that time, that geyser timed right to the second to I wanted to be more entertained than I was.
Well, I'll give it this. It was lean and it was in and out. It was not an overly long movie. It was like 95 minutes?
I know. And yet, unfortunately, I got up and left the theater twice because like a moron, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take part in that giant Modelo beer, that 64 ounce can. And I had to excuse myself twice in the theater, which never happened. So in 90 minutes, I had to leave.
We only have two characters, right? So we've already set up it's Adam Driver. Well, actually, if you count the wife and the daughter back home in the
they're all like in flashback sequences.
Yeah,
at this point.
But basically, it's Adam Driver as Mills, the pilot, and then Ariana Greenblatt as Koa, who is the 9-ish-year-old girl that he finds, who survived the crash, who doesn't speak English or whatever language she's
I like
speaking.
this because he does make a point in his log that she comes from like the upper region or whatever, and he doesn't understand her dialects. This whole movie was directed and written by the two gentlemen who actually wrote A Quiet Place. And there's a lot of
dubious in itself. In terms of logic.
Listen, I actually enjoyed that movie. The second one, maybe not quite as much.
You see, I think this was a huge leap forward in entertainment value from A Quiet Place. Yeah.
Scott Beck and Ryan Woods. Young gentlemen, by the way. I didn't realize they were quite so young. There's a great concept here. I just don't think it was executed.
He lies to her that her family is still alive on top of the mountain where this escape pod is. So he can get her to come along like she wouldn't come along. Otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, once you get there, now you're going to have to figure out what you're going to tell her. I mean, he could have just been like, oh, I thought they were here. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
There's a couple of nice little sequences where the giant prehistoric bug lands on his neck. and he smushes it, and then they make a game out of it. Because, I got bug guts on my hand. And
okay. But here's the thing, right? That is a cool, and that's one thing you don't really see in a lot of these movies, because then she also has that bug that's in her mouth.
Yeah, that was very nasty.
I'm like, I'm going to die the minute I fall asleep because I snore. This thing's down my throat. I'm dying if I ever get transported back. But so he kills the bug. And then this whole sequence where all of a sudden it becomes a super sticky substance. He tries to wipe it off and half of the tree comes with his hands. And I'm like, oh, this has got to come back into play at some point when they're trying to defeat the dinosaur. No.
This would have been a great Sam Raimi Evil Dead moment if he gets his hand stuck to his head,
But you were waiting for this because obviously, like I said, you're getting all the smaller dinosaurs are picking at them and chasing them as they're making their way to this escape pod, which was, 12 meters. I love the fact that, the aliens are using meters as well. So that's good. We can understand them.
Their knowledge of time works in the same way ours does, unless a year for them is wildly different than what a year is for us. Yeah.
Well, 12 minutes is 12 minutes. You got to get off this planet.
And I also love the ankle, how do you say it? The ankylosaur, the little baby that's stuck.
Exactly. That's what
I'm like, this thing is going to follow him now for the rest of the movie.
Hysterical. No, immediately gets eaten. She saves it from the tar pit and immediately gets eaten. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty funny. Yeah. So, but I kept waiting for the crush bug, the idea of this sticky substance coming back, and it never did. So, and at one point they find refuge in this cave, and he sets up a perimeter like a foot away from him. I'm like, that's not going to do any good by the time they go off. The dinosaurs are right there.
So they take refuge in the cave, which is behind a waterfall.
Which is, you never do that. We've seen enough movies. No.
So this is where, I don't know if this was the T-Rex or the other thing that
doesn't matter.
Anyway, so this thing can't really get into the cave.
Right.
It's too big. So they retreat further into the cave because there's a sub cave in the cave.
Even though they heard noises coming from the sub cave, they're like, we gotta go.
So then they go into it and they fall a little ways, and then they're underground.
Right.
They know the T-Rex can't get them. Just wait it out and go back the way you came.
Correct.
Right. Instead of going further.
And now we gotta spelunk, and we gotta start drilling through the walls. And he does have these little tiny bombs, which come in handy, because he's sitting here, he's trying to break through the rock, and he's like, I can't do it. And I'm like, you have bombs in your pocket. Just blow the thing up. I'm gonna say After Earth is a masterpiece compared to
When he was in the cave, it was a very alien-esque moment, like when Dallas gets it, because it's completely dark, but he's got that little proximity thing. Yeah. So you can see the image of the dinosaur on that right behind him, as he's
you saw the breath too.
Thing.
It's like, come on, just turn around. Yeah. And that was a really nice scene where they're in the cave and their backs are to the waterfall, and then the lightning flash, and then you see the T-Rex head light up.
Right.
That was a nice little moment.
You got to have the nod to Jurassic Park with the close up of the eye through the window.
Yes, correct. Yeah, you can't. There's no way to get beyond it at this point.
Yeah,
you're just missing the theme song.
So it's just them on the run from point A to point B and fighting dinosaurs in between. And he gets caught in quicksand at one point after they're separated, and Koa finds him. That's the name of the little girl, Koa, and pulls him out of the quicksand. And then that's kind of like the end point where from that point, they're at the foot of the mountain. And then now they're making it up to this escape pod. There's some drama with the escape shuttle being upside down at one point.
Right, because as the minute it's upside down, you're like, at least at some point the dinosaur is going to come along and he's going to knock it right side up. And he does. Yeah. Amazingly.
After his gun jams or empties, or because you never really know what's being shot at from that gun. Like you said, it looks like it's like a pulse gun of some kind.
Yeah.
But
it had like a count on the side, so it was going down at one point.
Yeah. So after that empties, he's helpless against the dinosaur until he remembers, hey, let's wrap this around what I found at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Let's go back to the hot springs.
But if he was that far along that he's now at the same hot springs that he was before, it shouldn't have taken him that long to get to that escape pod.
Right.
He's already mapped that out. So it's serviceable. I wanted to see more dinosaurs. It would have been nice to have that Planet of the Apes twists, and you almost felt like you were going to get it, because once they got off the planet, and so the other thing is, so he makes it to the escape pod. He sends out, he realizes they're sending a rescue party. You're a year out. Where's this rescue party coming from, and how long is it going to take to get there? But anyways, so they escape. The asteroid hits, and then you get this kind of this evolution, almost like a time machine, time lapse of the mountains, and over the years the snow, and then you start to see the city build, which I guess was Denver. But I kept waiting for them to show somebody finding her little pictograms, the little stick figures that she kept drawing of her family.
Oh yeah,
in the a cave somewhere. That would have at least brought it home. That would have been a Battlestar Galactica 2003. Tie it in this. I don't know.
Did you see the woolly mammoths off in the distance when
I did not see any
when they were going through the eons at the end there before they make it to Denver or whatever that city was? There's a scene where it's like the Ice Age, and you see in the long distance there's like a family of 3 mammoths, it looks like.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we survived. Dinosaurs didn't. Yay. Yeah, I would have liked that, a little Twilight Zone Planet of the Apes, some kind of a twist, something that it would just made me like it was all for something, because it was really all for naught.
I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't have a twist, because I'm often saying, at M. Night Shyamalan movies, like, do we need to have a twist every time?
No. Yeah.
And this one evidently didn't think that it needed it. So it's just a pretty straight ahead.
That's just it. Yeah.
Journey movie, point A, point B, and they're successful.
But what's he going to do? So now he's going to go home to a wife who lost a daughter and be like, honey, I know she died, but look what I brought home. Mm-hmm. This is like AI, like bringing David back.
Right.
Like, I got you a new kid. Okay. Thanks, honey. Could have just got a snow globe like most people when they go on vacation.
Nope.
Brought you a kid.
Did you see that Danny Elfman was originally penciled in to score this movie and it didn't happen?
May have made it a little more entertaining for me.
Chris Bacon is the composer that ended up scoring, although I have no memory of what the score was.
No, I don't think it was memorable
fact.
In any way, shape, or form. Matter of fact, I just started home in the Jurassic Park theme, and now I can't get it out of my head. So,
$45 million budget, and it's made back 26 so far worldwide. So so it's going to be a long slog to get that.
You know what's really interesting is last night I'm on streaming services and I'm trying to find something to watch for our "What Else Did We Do" segment, and it's listed on Prime, but it's not available to watch it. But there is literally a graphic that you can click on, and it just says "Video not available." So how quick before it's going to show up on stream?
Right.
It's like, wait, 2 weeks in the theater and we only made how much? Mm-hmm. Drop it quick, drop it. It's a serviceable, entertaining. Yeah, maybe my expectations were a little. I wanted more from it. Is what it came down to.
It's funny you say that, because I thought it was refreshing that it was in and out and like serviceable. Yes, forgettable perhaps. But during those 95 minutes, I was engaged and I enjoyed it. Audiences, though, I think are more in your camp than in mine. Oh. It's getting, the cinema score grades from F to A+. The average is C+ for this movie of audiences coming out of the theater.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think expectations, because outside of Jurassic Park, we really don't get dinosaur movies.
The quintessential dinosaur movie. So whatever you do, you're always up against that bar. I think filmmakers would rather not go there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I had high hopes. I did see this was filmed in Louisiana, so that was interesting because I thought some of the set pieces, and again, it was prehistoric and alien enough. I guess it was okay. It was okay. And I hate to say that because I would rather kind of crap on it and then be like, oh, everyone else loved it. And I'm like, oh, great for you. And I'm happy the fact that you liked it because Adam Driver is a likable guy.
Yeah.
And the girl, the actress, she's likable. She, they do have a rapport. And I like the fact that they couldn't communicate where he was trying to teach her words and back and forth. Obviously, if it was all subtitled and it was just alien languages, it would have lost something. So, but like I said, just a 5-minute in, give me an alien language, and then you switch over, from subtitles to English. I get it. I get the point.
Yeah.
But apparently my buddy who watched the movie with me did not get that point. So I can't imagine. And so there's probably other people out there that are confused, going, wait, what? What's going on? Did they time travel? How'd they get back? Yeah, it's like, no, that's not.
I also noticed that he made no attempt to learn her language.
Well,
Yeah.
Can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, screw, I got time for that.
He did not in reality did not have to do any weapons training, because Adam Driver is an ex-Marine. And this is the first time in a movie he's got to use those like weapons handling skills that he learned.
I did not know that the Marines used pulse rifles.
I don't know, but he knew what he was doing.
So
all right. So buckets wise.
No, I hate doing
You see,
this.
I liked it. I didn't think it was a great movie, but I enjoyed it as it unfolded in front of me, and I did kind of forego the real critical thinking here, because you could have a field day going down rabbit holes. So I just enjoyed it for what it was, and if you're a dinosaur fan, you'll probably enjoy it as well. So, hey, if it shows up on Amazon and it's a $4.99 rental, then I think it would be worth your time. Out of 5 buckets, I'd give it 3.25.
All right. I agree with you on that. If this shows up on an afternoon, Sunday, rainy afternoon or whatever, this is serviceable. This is an entertaining movie that you can get behind. You turn your brain off. Unfortunately, sometimes when I go into these movies, I'm looking for this crap to talk about. And yeah, maybe I'm nitpicking it. Maybe I dug a little too deep. Yeah, I think if you like A Quiet Place, which I know you had issues with, I think you will be entertained. But I'm going to give it 2.5.
2.5. Okay.
Yeah. I walked out of there shaking my head. Just too many weird coincidences, too many amazing. And again, I guess any movies like that, yeah, I wish I could give it more.
All right, there you have it, 65. Yeah. And before we embark on a second journey into the past, let's talk about our concession treat for the week. This week, it's me. We tried our best to come up with a tie-in, since we're doing an all dinosaur movie. And since Easter, right around the corner from when we're recording here, we had the grand idea, let's do an egg of some sort. And how can you not, during the Easter season, talk about Cadbury Creme eggs? If you look up Cadbury Creme egg, there is a website for Cadbury. And then the first thing that you pull up is the cream egg. And here is the description. It's just not Easter until you've savored the unique milk chocolate shell and soft fondant center of a Cadbury Creme egg. And I will agree with that. Now, I'm not quite sure when I first became aware of Cadbury Creme eggs, but I would agree that it is not Easter until you take a bite into one of these things. It became so synonymous with Easter during my childhood. It was a must to get a Cadbury Creme egg, or hopefully more than one, in your Easter basket.
They sell them by the dozen?
I don't know if they sell them by the dozen. Maybe you can get them in a bag, like in a snack pack.
They're probably cheaper than real eggs.
I'm just aware that you can get them individually wrapped. And that's how I got it for this episode. Okay. The history of the cream egg is long and storied. It's very contradictory. It's not, unlike the movie that we just watched.
Does it go back to Moses?
It doesn't go back as far as some of these candies, although it does and it doesn't. Cadbury, of course, is a UK institution, Cadbury chocolate. So this was originated in the UK, the Cadbury Creme egg. Cadbury putting things in chocolate shell eggs dates back as far as the 1920s, as much of our discussions do. It didn't really become the cream egg as we know it now until 1963, when Fry's Chocolate in the UK started to market it for Cadbury as Fry's Cream Egg. Now, Fry's has it has historical relevance, this company, to our podcast, because Mr. George Lazenby, James Bond himself, was discovered in the late 60s as the Fry guy from Fry's chocolate commercials. That's how he got the James Bond part, mostly because he was known in the UK as the Fry guy.
The Fry guy, not to be confused with those little Fry guys that
no,
run around
not like
commercials.
Not like we know them as, like the little mops with legs.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. So it started as the Fry's Creme Egg in 1963, and then Cadbury took over the marketing in 1971 as the Cadbury Creme Egg, as it rightfully should have been all along, since Cadbury made the chocolate. Obviously, it's an outer shell of Cadbury chocolate. The actual egg inside is made from sugar, glucose syrup, inverted sugar syrup, dried egg white, and flavoring, quote unquote.
Dried egg white. Interesting. Well, it is an egg white with a yolk.
I think most people out there can relate to biting into a Cadbury Creme Egg. The tongue gets a workout with a Cadbury Creme Egg. You can't really
just bite into one. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess. There's an art to it.
You've got to hold it and bite into it from the top so it doesn't leak out, right? Yeah. So then you got to scoop it out with the tongue.
So you're now like an oviraptor.
Exactly.
Like taking away a dino leg.
And it's not exactly runny. It's kind of like more of a solid substance on the inside.
It's like a 3-minute egg.
And there's a little bit of grit to it. Not like sandy grit, but it's not like a smooth...
It's got tooth to it, yeah.
It's a very bizarre constituency inside this egg. And of course, there's white and yellow, so there's yellow food coloring going on. It does taste good, against all odds. It does taste good. So that's why it's such a popular thing year after year.
I cannot tell you the last time I ever had one of these.
It is far and away the best-selling candy in the UK between January and Easter because they come out during January at some point, if not New Year's Day. Yeah. And then it's a seasonal thing, of course, because, you can't really eat a cream egg. And if it's not leading up to Easter, I think. Cadbury in the UK sells 200 million of these annually.
200 million?
Yes.
Individual eggs.
Individual eggs.
That's a lot of eggs.
So Cadbury does produce it in the UK because that's where they're based. Hershey produces this actually distributes it in the US. The Mondelez. This is where the ambiguity comes in.
They don't import it in my chocolate.
The Mondelez International Company actually makes this in Canada. They ship it to Hershey, who then distributes it. So it's...
At what point is Canada just going to cut out the middleman?
And there's a dark side to this because there's been rumors and whispers that child labor is used in the making of these...
Golden gooses are laying these things?
Which Mondelez, denies. But that's what I found online. So there's the dark corners of the world.
It must be true. It's online.
But I can tell you this. This is not just conjecture. In 2016, the sales dropped as if they went over a cliff in the UK because the chocolate recipe was changed in the UK. They replaced the tried and true Cadbury chocolate recipe with a cheaper substitute, and consumers were not happy with the new taste.
Somebody lost their job over that. Cut corners,
but
save a couple pennies.
Still, they sell these things hand over fist, year after year after year. Over 1.5 million are made per day in the UK during this, this boom time. Most of the information I found was about these numbers in the UK. I don't know if we even come close to matching these sales in the US, but as we know, these are popular here in the US because they were in my Easter basket year after year after year. You can't go into a drugstore between January and Easter without seeing a huge display of these things.
You got them lined up.
Yeah. And as you suggested at the beginning of this talk, we've had an infamous commercial. I don't know if they even still make them, but the mascot of the Creme Egg.
They still run this commercial. This commercial's been out since early 80s, if not late 70s.
The Cadbury Bunny.
Yes.
which clucks like a chicken.
Yeah, the famous the commercial is it's an open audition for Cadbury spokesperson. You got the lion with the bunny ears. You got a bunch of different things going on there. But yeah, that's an iconic commercial.
Yes,
and that probably is what made us want those.
And then you get the impression at the end of the commercial that the bunny has laid the Cadbury eggs.
Yeah,
like when it goes bark, 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 that's the sound of the bunny actually laying the Cadbury egg.
Yeah.
In the UK, they do not use this approach to advertise the Cadbury cream egg. There was a slogan in the UK, "How do you eat yours?" was the marketing slogan.
So they're doubling down on what you were talking about before.
Yes. I would only think there's only one way to eat them. Like, do you crush it in your hand, a la Adam Driver with his bug in 65?
That would be gooey. Anybody just shove a straw in there?
So, as I said, Hershey distributes this thing in the U.S. They acquired the Cadbury license in 1988. So I think they were being imported up until that time. And Hershey put the kibosh because it's different chocolate in the UK and in the US. There's different recipes. So if you were to eat it,
it's not the same candy.
No, but if you were to eat a Cadbury cream egg from the UK and one from the US, you would get two completely different flavors in your mouth. And Hershey put the kibosh on imports in 2015, maybe because they were a little wary of this.
Well, they have the license, right?
Yeah. Imports were banned in 2015. Banned, Jerry, banned. This is probably the most fun fact that I found out about the Cadbury cream egg. 5 cream egg cars are in existence. Little egg-shaped cars that are about the size of Mini Coopers, probably smaller, actually. They exist at the Bourneville factory in the UK, and they drive them out for promotional events. And it looks like a little egg because the colors of the car are the same colors as the foil around the Cadbury cream egg.
This is kind of like Oscar Mayer's Wienermobile.
It is, yeah. They're probably like a very rare thing to spot them.
If you get the Wienermobile with 2 of the egg cars parked on either side, could be a little phallic looking. Stay away from the Wienermobile.
So for some reason, I thought that they came into existence while I was a kid. And that is true, since they came to the U.S., or they were renamed as the Cadbury Cream Egg in 1971. But it was one I was too young to realize it. So at some point when I was 5 or 6 years old, I happened upon them and thought that they were some kind of new novelty, but they had been in existence for a few years.
Yeah, I think everything that came before us at some point, you're like, oh, look what I discovered. You're like, no, it's been around since the 40s.
Exactly. Like, you didn't discover this thing.
No.
There are so many different varieties. Oh. They just don't have the stand. It's not just the standard, chocolate with your white and yellow filling. They have chocolate filling. They have caramel filling. They have caramel milk filling. They have mini caramel eggs. They have chocolate cream. They have orange cream. They have berry cream. Dream eggs, which is a New Zealand exclusive, which is a white chocolate. It's a white chocolate egg with a white chocolate only filling. The Cadbury McFlurry, which is a McDonald's drink, which is only available in McDonald's in the UK, Canada, and Australia, unfortunately. Okay. The holiday ornament cream egg, I don't know what's in that. Peppermint egg, giant cream eggs.
Ooh, that's too much.
Discontinued in 2006. I think the world agreed with you there.
You're not eating that in one sitting. You need a spoon if it's any bigger.
The golden cream egg.
Okay, I'm on board with that one.
That's like a Veruca Salt specialty right there. That was released in 2021 as part of the 50th anniversary of the cream egg. And I'm thinking most of these have come out in the UK because I don't remember seeing any of this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't. I was going to ask.
The ghost egg, which is just white on the inside.
That sounds like the dream egg.
But the dream egg was white on the outside. This was chocolate on the outside.
I thought it was white on white.
No, it's just not white on the inside. The Oreo cream egg, Canada only. And the Fudgio egg, which is also Canada only. And there's also a Chips Ahoy egg.
Okay. Why is there not a Cadbury egg with a peep inside it?
Ooh.
Why? Who's missing out on this?
Well, that's like Godzilla fighting Gamera. It's not going to happen.
You don't. No, this egg was fertilized. There was a chicken inside. I may just pass out if I open up that one.
Or, just like a candy chick. It doesn't need to be a peep.
Yeah, I guess I'm sure that they showed up on my Easter basket as a kid, but I cannot tell you the last time I ate one of those. Nor do I really, even you just describing it right now, it does not sound appealing.
Yeah, well, I had one this weekend, and believe me, I'm probably good for another 20 years.
You're like that rabbit. You're like,
yeah. This is another thing. This is very similar to the movie we're about to discuss. It's much better in my memory than it is in current reality. So
I think that's everything.
Yeah. So with that, let's go back.
Yes, let's go back.
Let's go back to the theater and be very careful with your cream egg, Jeff, because the theater staff is not going to like us if you get any of this fondant on the seat.
I'm just going to blame you.
Because we don't have any recliners in this theater showing Last Dinosaur.
No, geez, I think
they put us in the closet over here. These
are fold-out chairs from Grandma's closet. So, are you implying that this movie's going to lay an egg?
Let's see. Let's
go.
It. All right, Last Dinosaur. First of all,
Dinosaur.
As a kid, if I was talking as a 6-7-year-old who watched this for the first time on the ABC Friday night movie, I believe, because I used to stay at my grandmother's on Friday nights into Saturday. And I remember watching it there.
You were lucky you didn't get forced to watch what was Dallas on Fridays?
Oh, no, I did. But this was a special event. So they allowed me my
So this was like at 10 o'clock at night. It was like the 10 o'clock movie?
Well, no, they probably did. Now that you say that, they probably just watched Dallas after this was over.
It's not like they said the VCR.
Yeah. Oh, no, I had to watch Dallas when I was a kid. I got the Dukes of Hazzard. I think the Hulk was on Friday nights, too, if I'm not mistaken. But
I was subjected to the Dukes of Hazzard because my little sister, who was 10 years younger than me, forced us to watch that.
But yeah, regardless, Last Dinosaur was a ABC movie of the week.
And this was made for TV.
It wasn't. They tried to sell this to a distributor to get it theatrically released, and nobody bought.
They were like, yeah, no, we're good.
Nobody took the bait on this. So instead it ended up on ABC. So there are two versions, the full length version, which is 106 minutes long, which is probably what we watched.
So this is your choice. This is a movie that you remember fondly as a kid watching on television. 1977?
Yeah, it premiered in February in 1977, which would have made me 6 years old at the time.
So this was pre-Star Wars, but post King Kong.
I think King Kong was still in theaters when this aired originally.
At that age, kids are obsessed with it. I'm assuming that Land of the Lost was on.
Oh yeah, Land of the Lost was 75, I think. So
we're surrounded by dinosaurs, probably learning about dinosaurs in school. So yeah, why would you not want to watch? And you did have Land Before Time, all those movies.
You had that stuff. Yeah, those were more stop motion-y kind of things. So.
I mean, as a kid, did you know the difference if it was an iguana with a fin stapled onto its forehead or if it was claymation?
No, it was all just, one.
Yeah, or it was a guy in a suit.
Wonderful stew,
Yes,
it was
correct.
all the same. You're eating from the same bowl.
But right from the very beginning, I'm blown away that Rankin and Bass are attached.
Well, it shouldn't surprise you because remember, they were attached to King Kong Escapes. So they've already dipped their toe into the kaiju suitmation world. So Rankin and Bass produced, along with Tsuburaya Productions, not Toho. E.G. Tsuburaya was the special effects guru behind a lot of the early Godzilla movies and had a studio. So it was a co-production between Rankin Bass and Tsuburaya Productions.
Okay.
Actually filmed in Japan as well.
This was filmed in Japan.
Yes, it was.
Interesting. I thought it was on Gilligan's Island.
With a largely American cast.
Yeah.
Now this was, I don't think it was ever repeated. Maybe it was once because I saw it a handful of times as a kid because after it showed up on that ABC Friday night movie, I think they did show it on the 4:30 movie a couple of times, afternoons.
Okay.
Which meant that it was edited even further down.
Did they at any point did they cut out when Maston Thrust grabs that lady's boobs at the beginning of the movie? He goes all in.
Most likely, yeah.
It's a kid movie.
So this has lived on in my memory for years and years because of the fact that I never saw it again after I would say 1979 or 1980 at the very, very latest.
Yeah. So that's a very long time of gestating in your brain.
All I remember are the dinosaur parts. I don't remember
the only thing memorable.
Yeah.
You don't want to remember anything. That's the one thing I hate about these movies, which is get rid of all the human drama, even like the Godzilla movies, as well as they are. Just give me monster on monster. Just give me dinosaurs. I don't care that the Triceratops horn is rubber and it's bending, or this guy gets hit in the head with a boulder and it caves in. Like he should have been dead. I don't care. That's what I want. I want it as a 4-year-old. I want it as an 8-year-old. I want it as a 50-year-old. That's how I want my monsters.
Yeah. And now I can only assume that this was even more spectacular to me because I wasn't allowed to go see King Kong when it first came out in theaters. Because I remember seeing the commercial.
Losing your mind, probably.
Seeing the covers of Famous Monsters magazine for a year before King Kong came out. They were marketing this thing. So when I finally saw that it was out in theaters, I was like, please take me. And because it was a PG movie and I was only 6 years old at the time, they were like, we should see it first before we let you go see it.
Oh, come on.
So this was like a concession almost, The Last Dinosaur, because I think, like I said, King Kong was still in theaters when this first aired on ABC.
All right, we'll let you watch this one instead. It's free.
Yeah.
In worst case, if it's too much for you, we turn it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you said, the movie focuses around Maston Thrust.
You can't even say his name without laughing. What a name.
Whose company, so this guy is a big game hunter as well as an oil magnate.
Yes, this guy's he's big name.
So he does it all. So his company's named after him, Thrust Industries or whatever it is.
I just want the logo to just be a giant fist.
So he's made this drill called the polar borer. I
think Biden actually is borrowing it for the new Willow project in Alaska right now.
So this phallic thing, and have you ever seen in your research for this, like doing our Instagram page, did you see the Japanese theatrical poster for this?
Yeah, with the with the boar basically coming out of the dino's legs.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
He looks like he's very happy to see me. Yeah, he is thrilled to see me. But hold on, because we got to backtrack just a little bit because we're introduced to this Maston Thrust with this other woman, and he's bragging about all these animals he's shot, and they got this glorious fireplace mantle with all these big game animals on.
Let me tell you, his apartment in this scene is worthy of a James Bond set. This is a really impressive set piece right here.
And you find out it's on a plane.
So I don't think it's on the plane up front. Is it on the plane?
I don't know. I got the impression that it cuts from this girl because she's like ready to just lay down with him. And he kind of blows her off. He's like, we're going to Loch Ness. There's a monster. I'm going to kill it. And she's all hot to trot. And then he blows her off. But then she starts going through the scrapbook just to bring home the point that he likes to kill things. And you have this is an unbelievable opening theme song. What other song has dinosaur? Unless you start talking about the Police. Nancy, what was her? Nancy Wilson.
But not of heart.
Not the Nancy Wilson.
Not of heart. Yeah.
So, but then it shows, I got the impression that this was all on board his airplane. I'm like, how does a fireplace on an airplane
I don't think that opening scene was on the plane.
Okay,
I think they transitioned from that.
Right. Well, it was a very bad transition.
It was because then as she's turning the pages, it freeze frames on each page. As she's looking at this guy's history. So it's a way of introducing you, the audience, to who this guy is.
Yeah, like I said, he just likes to shoot things.
Yes,
that's what it comes down to, just to bring that point home.
So he has ulterior motives going on this expedition because, it's his company. And they've invented this polar borer to find oil below the polar ice caps. But they've also found a lost world on one of their missions. So coincidentally, this guy's a big game hunter, and his number one guy who survived the first mission and came back says there's a T-Rex there. So he's like, oh,
yeah,
the T-Rex, I'm going to go.
Chuck Wade, by the way, right? Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck should have never gone on this back mission. He was suffering from some serious PTSD.
Yes, he was.
Like, Chuck, you're coming with me. And he's like, what? No. I just saw four of my fellow scientists all get killed by this thing. And what I thought was funny when they were doing the he's doing his big press conference, and Chuck comes out and he's like, I saw an enormous animal. I shouted and waved, but his arms were too little. He couldn't wave back. And so the T-Rex was incredibly awkward. Sorry about that. But yeah, all of it. So the other scientists were all eaten by this T-Rex. And he even had measurements, 20 foot high, 40 foot long, 8 tons. And so, yeah, this is where Mast and Thrust is like, we're going, and we're going to hunt this thing. And then he introduces his friend Bunta.
This would never play today. Like this is.
I wish Bunta was the only one to survive. To be honest,
this is my native guide who's been my employee ever since I found him. Every time he addresses him, he's Bunta. Like he's just barking his name.
You can't say that name without yelling it.
It was terrible.
Yeah, terrible. This is. But this is also where we're introduced to Francesca Banks, who was played by Joan Van Ark, correct?
Pre Knots Landing, Joan Van Ark.
Oh, why was I thinking she was the mom on Eight is Enough?
No. She is Knots Landing.
Oh, Knots Landing. But she claims that she's all about equality, and then she sleeps with him to get on board. I'm like, is this progressive feminism, or I honestly can't decide. Yeah, it was much. But this guy, this Mast and Thrust, like, it was driving me nuts. He couldn't even wear his sunglasses properly on his face. They're like 3/4 up on his forehead. Well,
that's because this guy's face and head are huge.
Yeah,
this guy rivals the T-Rex in size. So they probably couldn't find glasses that would fit on this guy's face.
Oh, and they're at the cocktail party, and they have a giant sculpture of the ice borer. And I'm like, 4 people died in that thing. I don't think that's really appropriate. It's like going to NASA. Look, we made a Challenger ice sculpture.
I wasn't really clear. Was this lost world that they find underground, like Journey to the Center of the Earth, or was it?
They made it look well. The very, very cheesy graphics, the simple graphics, they bore down and then came out into this valley. So it's like Valley of the Dinosaurs, just like inside a extinct volcano. And
gotcha.
this whole valley, this dinosaur kind of lives as its own ecosystem. And this idea has been around for, I think the X-Men even use it with Savage Land. And like we said, Land of Time Forgotten, all these, Hollow Earth theory, all this other idea that, you just pop up and, oh, look, there's dinosaurs and they've been here all along and we just didn't know about it. But I will say the oil platform before they start drilling was so Thunderbirds Go. It was great. I'm like, I want more of this.
That's where I was thinking to myself as well. Okay, this is where we're getting into it, because you see the little toy helicopter and the drilling platform, which is
see the T-Rex attack that thing. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
and apparently this polar bear is secretly a TARDIS because it is much bigger on the inside than this little tiny can that you see from the outside. 5 people would not. Bunta wouldn't even fit into that by himself. So you got Chuck. Chuck's going back, and he's not happy about it. You got Frankie, who she's a photographer who, as I mentioned, touting her feminism and her strong wills, and her dad thinks that she could be president, and yet somehow she has to bed Thrust in order to get on board this thing because he's never taken a woman.
Because Thrust is like, I've never ever taken a woman on safari. Yeah. First of all, she has to strip behind a bush in order to get his attention. Yeah, and then, as you said, has to coerce him up to her hotel room. Then he goes after he sees her throwing her dress into like a very a la It's a Wonderful Life, throwing her dress over the bush. He goes over to Sweet Talker. How could I stay mad at you?
Yeah, when you're flashing your tatas at me. Yeah. So you got Mast and Bunta, and then we are introduced to this doctor who's also coming. So there's 5.
Yes. So this doctor is the brains. He's the Nobel Peace Prize winner.
He's not very smart.
He has made Thrust promise him that he will not hunt this creature. And Thrust is like, this is only an exploratory mission for educational purposes.
Then why are you bringing a gun?
Yeah.
Well, we got to protect ourselves.
But yes, so we do get the sequence where the borer drills into this valley, penetrating the lost world.
It's not too subtle.
But it is very Planet of the Apes-esque when the ship is floating in the water and they.
Yes. Yeah.
This is probably one of the sequences I remember most as a kid. Was
when you're first introduced? Well, you see the
polar boar. Yeah,
right.
When you first see, it's just such a glaring jump shot, from the polar boar to the first pterodactyl floating there.
You literally see like the little string holding them up.
Yeah.
So, but I will say this. I mean, a half an hour in, and you're already in Dino Valley.
Yes, you are.
So it doesn't mess around. It doesn't take forever. You watch some of these other movies and it takes you 45 minutes to an hour just to get to the location. Mm-hmm. As a kid, you're like, just show me dinosaurs.
And the title of this is a bit of a letdown because it isn't The Last Dinosaur. It's not like it's the only dinosaur there.
I did have a revelation by the end of this movie. I'm like, wait, Maston is the last dinosaur.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a little too deep. They play fast and loose with this because, there are many dinosaurs and we're immediately rampaged by this Chuck calls a ceratopsian, which I give him credit that he knew what that word was, but I don't think it was it was not a three-horned. It was not a triceratops. It was more like a woolly mammoth looking weird thing. I don't know.
But we did get a triceratops a little bit later, which is also.
It was like magically hidden in the mountain. What's he doing in there? Like, that didn't make no sense. The T-Rex steals the polar boar.
But the fascinating thing is, because, when you have Anguirus or, a four-legged monster in the Toho movies, it's one guy, and the way that he walks is on his hind legs, but on his knees in the back.
Correct.
These were two people in a suit, like a horse.
Yeah, like a horsey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who drew the short straws in the bag?
And I thought it was pretty impressive, though, when you first see this thing stampeding and it's in slow motion as Frankie is stupidly just staying there.
Oh, she's got shots to take. How many rolls of film do you think this woman took with her?
Oh, I don't know. I want to know how many white suits that they had packed, because they immediately go down in the mud the first 5 minutes, and then the next scene they're sparkling white again.
Yeah. Chuck was shocked the minute they get on. I'm like, you're the only one who's been here. Why are you shocked by all the noises?
Yeah.
Like he didn't see that coming.
But I will give it this. It's got more dinosaurs than King Kong did, the 1976.
Yeah.
Because then it goes right from that stampede, and then she's standing on a giant turtle, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll take giant bugs, I'll take dinosaurs, but not giant turtles. Again, Chuck, not impressed by rampaging dinosaurs, but somehow his mind is blown by a prehistoric plant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they need to eat something. I don't know what he was going at.
And then, of course, there's the leech scene, which predates Stand By Me by several years.
Yeah. Boonta just happened to have a giant bag of salt. It's like, what are you carrying?
Yeah, I know.
Is that for your Brontosaurus burgers?
He's got all sorts of magical concoctions that he's got. I'm sure salt wasn't the end of it.
Yeah, it was like his bat utility belt.
But then we get introduced to the T-Rex, which comes in and out of the movie, at will.
Again, we know so much more about what a T-Rex looks like. This is clearly just a guy standing up in this. He's not even attempting to lean over.
But the suit is really terrible. It's like just
the little arms just flop around.
Think of the dinosaur. Think of Gorosaurus from the King Kong Escapes, which looks a million times better than this. They actually purloin the Godzilla roar, if you noticed.
Yes, it was like so obvious. I mean, they weren't going straight up roar, but they would use just enough of it that you're like, that's Godzilla.
Yeah.
So as a little kid, you're like, what? But she brought her handbag with her. I hope she didn't have her car keys in there.
I hope not.
She immediately loses it.
And what was the girl's name? The cave woman? Daisy.
They name her Hazel.
Hazel, that's right.
Hazel. And I'm like, is that a reference to the maid Hazel from the TV show in the 60s? I don't know. They named her Hazel. But of course, she's just like following around and like picking up all the stuff. And I'm like, well, clearly the stuff that she's picking up, they're going to be able to use later. Like somehow they think they lost it and then they find it. No, she's just collecting. She's shopping almost. But this is just right around the time that we get Maston calls Chuck a ding dong.
You ding dong. Says, you said you weren't going to try to kill it. You ding dong, it was trying to kill us.
All these people are idiots, by the way. There's not a redeeming quality. Boot is the only one I'm like, this guy needs to survive.
Yeah, but of course he's not going to survive.
No.
There are some pretty impressive point of view shots. When the Nobel doctor gets it and the camera is below the dinosaur from his point of view, it actually looks legitimate.
Well, I'm going to bring up the scene toward the end of the movie where Frankie is running from it. And again, like you said, it's 3/4 up view shot. So yeah, it looks massive. It's great. It's actually very well done. Although they claim it's 20 foot tall and she somehow runs underneath its legs. And I'm like, it's a lot taller than 20 feet. So, but yeah, this thing's like a ninja. It just sneaks up on
it. Does. Yeah.
No one hears it coming. Bunta's in the tree. He's looking for it, literally turns around and it's in his face.
And at one point, midway through, it decides that it wants the polar bear as a toy.
Well, he likes shiny objects.
He does. And he gets it in his mouth and he brings it home to like his, dinosaur bone valley where he lives. And that's when the Triceratops comes out of the mountain.
out of the mountain. He's just like hiding in there. Like, what are you doing? Oh, it's my turn.
This is the kind of what you've come for, is a dinosaur on dinosaur action.
That's right.
So
I guess they had to find a way to get him in there, but
yeah. And he gets speared. He gets speared.
He gets lots of blood going on there.
So this was filmed, the outdoor shots were filmed in the Japanese Alps, and it is impressive. These locations are impressive. And, in certain shots, it does look like a prehistoric landscape. So there are selling points to this. If you like craptacular movies, you're not going to be disappointed.
This is one thing I'll say. So you actually had a DVD burned for you, a CD.
Yes. So I have from what they call Warner Archives. Now, since this was released theatrically in Japan back in the day. So in 2009, even in Japan, it wasn't available for years after the theatrical release. So in 2009, Toho actually distributed it. They didn't make it, but they distributed it when it was out in theaters. So in 2009, it came out in a DVD release, the first time ever in the world in Japan. And they had bonus features. They had a commentary, they had a making of and everything else. And they had the full-length theatrical version in an anamorphic transfer.
Ooh.
And so Warner Archive in the US decided to put it out as a made-to-order release because Warner Archives puts out the forgotten and less loved movies.
Which just falls under yes.
So if you order this thing from Warner Archives, they burn you a copy and they send it to you. So it actually comes in a legitimate DVD case with artwork and everything. But when you put it in the player, there's no menu. It just says Warner Archive, press, play for feature. And there's no special features. There's no bonus. There's no chapters.
Nothing, just the movie.
Just the movie.
Now, but this was, you ordered this online?
I ordered this online. You can get it through Amazon. You can buy these Warner Archives via Amazon. But what they did use was the 106-minute. They used that same transfer from the Japanese DVD.
Okay, right. That scene in Ghostbusters where Janine goes, "We got one!" It's like, oh, somebody ordered one? Really?
I think that's probably how they do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because you sent me the link and I was forced to watch this on my computer, which actually was better than watching it on my phone from internetarchives.org.
Okay.
The quality is horrible. It's compressed. It is your standard television square screen. And it looks like maybe the aspect ratio was a little bit wider, but they somehow squished it.
Okay.
The quality was really bad. And I've seen there's some stuff on YouTube, like trailers and stuff that are much cleaner. And I was really hoping to at least have that level of quality. So it was probably like watching TV back in 77.
Okay. So maybe it was authentic, if nothing else.
Yes, correct.
So at one point during the movie, like after the midpoint, after the dinosaur takes the polar bear and fights the Triceratops, there's a time jump. At one point, all their clothes are ripped and somebody says that they've been there for 4 months.
Yeah. And I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, a 4-month time jump? Really? Just give me more dinosaurs, because it gets very convoluted. And Maston actually says, well, I told them if they didn't hear from us in a couple of days to forget it. And Chuck's like, what'd you do that for? What? Why would you do that? Well, enough people have died already.
There was one point when Frankie seems to be gravitating towards Chuck as a romantic interest. Then they have a knockdown drag out. Why don't you just shut up, huh? Why don't you make me? And from that point on, she goes back to thrust again. Yeah. So she's jumping from guy to guy here.
I thought that was, she was, And they're only there, like you said, 4 months? And yet somehow they've already altered the evolution of these Neanderthals that are chasing after them because they've learned to make spears to mimic what they have. I'm like, what else did you teach these idiots? Yeah.
There's one scene when Bunta catches a chicken and then he laughs and it freeze frames on his lap.
I think he was going to eat it without them.
And this is how normally a TV show would end back in the 70s. You'd see credits on the freeze frame of him laughing.
That might have been a commercial cut.
There's one point where Frankie teaches Hazel how to wash her hair, not her own hair, but Frankie's hair.
And I will say these men Neanderthals, like you had to scrape a lot of shower drains to get all that hair to paste on their arms to make them look like they're cavemen. Yeah, this comes to a screeching halt right here. As a kid, I'd be like, it's too much human drama.
Yeah.
And they're infighting and and again,
like you said, you don't care about this as a kid.
No. And at one point she even says, why can't we climb to the mountain and just send off a signal? And I'm like, it took you 4 months to ask this question. Like, and then you're right. They bring in Hazel and I'm like, you can barely feed 4 people. Let's bring in another mouse. Yeah. Because apparently Hazel didn't know what she was just following them.
Yeah.
She had no survival skills of her own. It snows and then it's not snowing. It all melts.
And by now, Thrust is not even hiding his intention anymore. Now he's obsessed with killing the dinosaur. So they come up with the idea of tying its tail to a boulder, which...
It took him 4 months to come up with this plan. It's like genius. Although I do like...
Bunta, 200 yards of tough vine,
200
please.
yards. That's a lot of... That's a lot. So, which I think is what that little girl used in the rope in the previous movie. Because he hands her the rope and she's got that thing. When he gets to the top of the mountain, it's like 200 yards. It's like,
but even 4 months into it, they're still giving him grief for wanting to kill this thing.
Yeah, correct. Meanwhile, it's just harassed them. It's just made their life miserable.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that Hazel snuggles up to him and I'm like, oh, Lana Zug here. We got a little caveman going on.
But then he freaks out when he wakes up. He's like, that smelly thing you got in my bed.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing you got going for you, Mr. Thrust.
There's a great line of dialogue when they're giving him grief for wanting to kill it. It will come after us until we are chewed, swallowed, and dissolved. And I'm like, is he going to go one step further?
And pooped out.
And I am not ready for that. Is anybody ready for that? But
that's actually how you get out of a dinosaur if you're ever swallowed. You run around till you get pooped out.
So the climax, they make a catapult.
Again, you could have just sharpened 1,000 sticks and lined your camp to keep this thing at bay. No, we're going to put all our money in on a catapult.
But if they didn't make the catapult, then you wouldn't get that great shot of the boulder imploding the thing's rubber head and bouncing off.
This guy's skull is just, it's a Cadbury egg at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Much, nothing but cream on the inside.
As the catapult action is going on, Frankie and Chuck find the polar borer and they push it all the way back to the water. It's like, how do they do that? How do they make it back to the water?
No, I don't know. Yeah, she's exhausted, but I'm like, that's a lot of work.
It's like in a valley. It's in like the elephant graveyard valley.
And even the T-Rex was exhausted. And yet they somehow whatever. Listen.
And poor Batu at this point gets it. He misses a spear shot. Misses the spear shot.
You just see his stepped on necklace. Like I said, everyone else should have died in this. Bunta should have.
And
just
that
survived.
Was besides the polar borer. That's the other scene I remember as a kid. Them finding the footprint with his necklace inside. So I'm like, is his body still under the sand?
All of these giant monster movies drive me nuts because the footprint is like so perfect. Like there's no grass. It's just all mud with a perfect frame. It's like. Footprints don't look like that. Yeah. But Maston had dynamite all this time. He pulled those out of his pocket. He's like, oh, I forgot I had these. Catapult didn't work. It knocked it down. He gets back up. So he's like, I better start throwing some fireworks at it.
And so Frankie still has not stopped trying to coerce this Thrust guy. If you come back with us, I will gladly be your Eve to your Adam.
And even Chuck is like, she goes, we have time to go back and say goodbye. And he goes, what do you mean? No, we're going. This guy is a lunatic.
as I'm watching this, I'm like, is Chuck Epstein from Welcome Back, Kotter? Is this the same guy? I'm like, no, it's not.
I have a note from my mom. She said I need to come home.
So Chuck and Frankie leave to go home in the Polar Borer, which still works after all this time, after being abused like it was.
Yeah.
And Maston stays to hunt the dinosaur. And Frankie at some point says, leave it alone. It's the last one. Like, it's not.
How do you
look
know?
around you?
Right. They're everywhere.
And the coup de grace is when Thrust looks at Hazel and gives her a look like, okay, I guess so.
When in Rome.
Oh, man. The Last Dinosaur. So I am not the only fan of this movie out there. On our Twitter feed, I saw, let me pull it up. There is a book in the works on the making of The Last Dinosaur. And I think that this would be a fascinating read.
Ooh.
Probably maybe even more enjoyable than watching the movie itself. Because
yeah.
something like this, that's just an anomaly that sits out there. I would want to know who came up with this idea, who greenlit it, how did they make the damn thing? Did people watch it? What were the ratings on this when it came out? And was it a hit when it was released?
So many questions.
Was it a hit? Was it when it was released in the theaters in Japan? I don't know. So maybe B. Harrison Smith, who we follow on Twitter, is in the process of making a book. Bear Manor Media is going to be the publisher, making The Last Dinosaur, an event 50 years in the making.
Oh, you stole that.
So, and I'm looking at the cover art, the title again, Making the Last Dinosaur. The cover is shared by both the T-Rex and Richard Boone as Thrust. Both dinosaurs. Keep an eye out for that, because I definitely will, because I'll order this thing. Can you pre-order? I don't know. I think it just says coming soon. Teaser. Harrison Smith, let us know when this book is available, and we will tout it on this show.
Even better, can we get signed copies?
Yeah, maybe.
I am all on board for that.
But yes. So as we said, got a theatrical release and distributed by Toho, the OGs of kaiju. I don't think, though, it was quite enough to give this credibility.
To a 6-year-old kid, golden on a Friday
Richard
night.
Boone. I think that because when I saw this again years later, I think in my head I had thought that Pat Boone starred in this. I'm like, this isn't Pat Boone.
That would have been great. Pat Boone.
Who is this guy? When they first pitched this to ABC, when they couldn't get a theatrical distributor for it, ABC passed because they were working on a King Kong rock musical.
What?
And they thought it would compete, because you can't have more than one monster movie on the slate. But that fell through, and then they agreed to The Last Dinosaur.
Now I want to hear about that.
I know, right?
King Kong rock music.
Subaraya Productions used the T-Rex costume again for another feature.
Why?
I know.
His head was already crushed in.
I've never seen this, but it was called Dinosaur War Eisenborg. So I don't know in what context it was used. Maybe Harrison Smith can let us know that in his book.
That seems very convoluted.
And here's the weirdest bit of info. In the UK, it was actually also released theatrically as a double feature with William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist. He directed a movie called Sorcerer with Roy Scheider. And it is not about like a magician sorcerer. It's about these 4 ex-criminal, ex-cons that are living in Africa on the run from authorities in their own country. And they get a job to transport unstable dynamite from point A to point B. So they've got to get this dynamite and I've seen this movie. They've got to get this dynamite on a truck over rugged terrain and hope it doesn't blow up from point A to point B.
Where does the sorcerer come in?
I'd have to watch it. I'd have to watch it again. This is probably something again like The Last Dinosaur, when you and I didn't even tie in Thrust being the last dinosaur. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe they're sorcerers because they've got to move this dynamite magically.
This was after Jaws?
It was after Jaws, 1977.
Wow.
So how these two movies tie in, maybe whoever the distributor was mistook Sorcerer as a sci-fi movie, and that's why they made it as a double feature. But I don't know.
Stinker double feature.
It was actually a pretty good movie, Sorcerer.
Okay.
Yeah, if anybody ever wants to seek it out. That one's been a long time coming. I've wanted to talk about that for so long.
And I'm upset that it didn't, sometimes when you rewatch this stuff, you're like, it's just as good as I remember. Usually
no,
not.
I can't. I
Usually
can't
not.
tell you that I felt that way.
It's hard to. We're going to talk about that in a couple of weeks with some of our other movie choices.
But okay, so here's the big question. Did you enjoy this more or less than 65?
I want to say I enjoyed it more. I definitely gave it higher buckets.
You did? Really? Really?
I want to say, you mentioned this before, but for a made-for-TV movie, it really does have some nice special effects. I mean, yeah, minus the fact that the T-Rex looks like a guy in a rubber suit that's bouncing around. But there's a certain charm in that for me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Do you want more dinosaur action? Yeah. You got that nice little fight with the Triceratops, but beyond that, it's just the damn dinosaur would show up every now and again, menacing through the tree line. I wish I was able to see a cleaner version of it, because as we talked, either you're going to buy this on eBay from the burn copies, or again, you can watch it for free on internetarchive.org, but it's very poor quality.
Right.
So,
right.
But I did enjoy this. I did like watching it. I can easily see, laying in front of the TV with your feet in the air and just head in your hands and just eating this up for 2 hours on television as a kid, 77.
And that's exactly how I watched it. And again, another huge selling point, it's got its own theme song. And
one of the best theme songs I've heard.
I don't know if you could get
a monster movie.
I don't know if you could get a more 70s, definitive 70s song than this song is. It's like almost borderline disco. It's
And she's singing about the dinosaur.
Yeah, she's singing about how sad the dinosaur is, the last one.
Yeah, just think about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to be friends with these people. I got nobody else. Every time I come around, they're throwing crap at me. The misunderstood dinosaur. I did like it. We did mention when they had a confrontation with the natives, and Maston shoots one, and then of course they all realize, well, now all bets are off, and they run away. And Chuck's like, well, one thing's for certain. They now understand we can make them dead. Great dialogue. We can make them dead.
And of course, it's all Japanese extras as the natives.
Like I said, it was they were digging deep with the leftover hair, just slapping them on them. So I'm giving this 3. I enjoyed this.
3?
I gave it 3.
That's good. That's good. So what I'll do, I'll give it out of 5 buckets. I'm going to go 3.5. So I'll give it the slight edge over 65 again, because it just makes up such a large part of my memory. I
don't even have the nostalgia factor, but yeah, it's entertaining. It's a time capsule. It's a polar boar.
Definitely a polar boar.
Yes.
So this brings us to what else we did this week. I can't really bring anything to the table here because we had so much to watch. Full disclosure, we're recording another episode that we're going to air on Easter week, since we'll all be off. So I was doing homework for our episodes all week long.
Yeah, well, I did, because I felt there are weeks that come and go, and a lot of times I get busy with work, and I'm like, I have nothing to bring to the table. And because it was only the 2 of us, I said I have to at least come prepared. And yes, we doubled down. We have a lot of homework this week, but coming off the dinosaurs, I'm like, it's got to be in the same vein. So I dug deep on my Tubi watch list, and I came up with a doozy, the Velocipaster.
Oh man.
Now,
I think I've heard this title before.
Okay. So you haven't seen this?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay. This is pure insanity. And I'm on the edge of either this is the worst movie I've ever seen, or it's pure genius. And I'm not really, it's ludicrous. And the premise is a priest, a young priest. He's in China, and he's in China because at one point he's running through the woods and he just turns around and he goes, China. And you're like, oh, okay, we're in China. There are ninjas. There's a velociraptor, which he is handed a magic. There's a ninja on the run who gets shot. She gets a arrow through her. She hands over this horn, basically tells him to get rid of it. He says, oh, you want me to keep this? So, and whenever he gets angry, he turns into this rubber velociraptor that starts eating bad people. He befriends a prostitute, and they decide that he's doing good for humanity. And it is so poorly acted. It is so poorly directed, but I think it's all intentional. From what I understand, this was based on a student film, and it's very obvious. I mean, it is a B movie cheese, but I think they're leaning into it because it is listed as a comedy. And there were moments where I was laughing my ass off at how bad this is, that I'm like, this has to be intentional. So I found a review, and I think this says it best. Oh, first of all, it won Far Out Feature Film Award at the 2019 South African Horror Fest. So I think that people were on board and they kind of get this, and either you get it or you don't. I mean, you could come out of this and be like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life. That is ridiculous. But this review, absolute garbage, a must watch.
Is this a sci-fi, direct to sci-fi, or no? It's not even.
It's been up on Tubi or one of these streaming services for quite a while. I remember when it dropped, and I think the best part about it is the graphic for the poster. It just looks like it was a student film and someone made it into a full feature. But I want to read this review because this says it all. This is 10 stars, mind you. This is nothing but a hilarious ride from start to finish. A mangled heap of props, dialogue, costuming, lighting, special effects, and acting jammed into an inexplicable plot by a genius director who manages to make a very bad movie on purpose without any shred of pretense or shame. The ninja fight scene is what Mortal Kombat would look like if it got hijacked by a kindergarten drama class. Watch this movie. It's terrible. It's schlocky. You'll love it. And that says it all. So there you go. Velocipaster. Yes.
Wow.
If you, I will say the first 5 minutes, he comes out, he's a priest. He comes out and he sees his mom and dad. They're outside the convent and they wave to him. And then you hear an explosion and he calls down, Mom, Dad. And they cut back. And all it says is VFX missing, insert shot. And and 3 or 4 times he's crying hysterical that his mom and dad have been blown up. And then they cut back to the empty parking lot with just a little lettering into, VFX missing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in. So there you go. I did some homework this week.
On top of the homework. That's impressive.
I sacrificed myself last night.
So what are we doing next week?
Oh, are we doing Shazam?
I think we are. Yeah, I think we are.
And I think that this was an inspired pairing that you came up with.
Shazam is inherently like a body swap kind of a thing, minus the swap. But you're not swapping with anybody, but it's a kid going into an adult's body.
Kids become human, or adults become kids. Yeah.
So in the movie we paired it with isn't really a swap either. It's the same idea as Shazam, basically. And it's one of the biggest movies of all time. Well, put Tom Hanks on the map. He was already out there.
Whoa. Bachelor party. What do you
come on? You're
right. You are right. Although I go all the way back to Bosom Buddies.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He was already there. He was a known commodity, but this brought him into the big leagues. Big leagues.
Big league.
Yeah.
Penny Marshall directed 1988. Big.
Yep. Big.
It's interesting because I was pulling together the graphics for our Instagram page, and the way they sold this movie is really weird because it's just like a coy picture of his face, and it just says, "Have you ever had a really big secret?" That's it. I will get into it next week. I just think it's a weird, because like you said, he really wasn't a big name. It's not like an Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Stallone that you're putting their face front and center. You know what kind of movie you're going to get.
Yeah, that's next week. Shazam.
Yes.
Shazam 2.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it's called Shazam 2.
No, it's a Fury of the Gods. And I'm hearing some interesting things because this is already in theater, whether or not anything comes to fruition, because we all know that the DC universe is being shaken up. So it all be for naught.
So that's next week.
Yeah, next week.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for listening. Dinosaur action. That was fun.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. TeePublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Yeah, we survived. Dinosaurs didn't. Yay.